All right, so I was just watching a YouTube video by a YouTuber whose content I enjoy. The channel's called FlemLo Raps. I think I'm saying that right. And he's a young relative to me, black man, young black man who does some really good content. And he focuses on NFL players who mostly it's like dudes who made it to the NFL and then had some kind of downfall, whether it was drugs, whether it was crime, injury. I think there's just a few where it's like somebody would have gone to the NFL and then this happened and it got taken from them. And he starts with their youth, kind of tells their story coming up. Then they played high school ball, college ball, then they got into pros, and here's what went wrong. And he does this really interesting thing where he'll establish their youth, something like fatherlessness in the home, um, troubles with the law, something like that. And then here's perhaps why this affected them years later. And I appreciate that because it's a study of what can go wrong. So some young man watching his channel is like, man, that happened to that guy and he was a big deal. I'm staying out of that. I don't want that to happen to me. So I appreciate that about his channel and his content. But there's a theme as I watch more and more videos, and I've been watching them for a few years back now. I think he goes he instead of condemning these guys, he's empathetic. Not necessarily sympathetic all the time, but empathetic. He tries to understand, and again, instead of condemning people, let's pick it apart, understand why it happens. Maybe you can prevent it from happening in the future, and I like that. But there's way too much, more and more videos of let's seek out why you're a victim. And it's like, and then the guy did this. Uh, you know, there needs, so it's, again, it's not a criminal channel, it's football. And it's just telling their stories. But he just did one on Henry Ruggs that I just got done watching 5 minutes ago. And Henry Ruggs went out drinking, got plowed, drunk, plowed, heavily intoxicated, was driving 156 miles an hour, struck a car, and a woman in that car burned to death as a consequence. Um, and on his video, the last thing he said was that could happen to anybody. Now there's more to it than that because he's like he shouldn't have been driving drunk, all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, no, actually, because I don't drink and drive at all. Never done it. Never going to. That can't happen to me. And I don't drink when I eat. So he's like, you go to a diner, you have a few drinks. It's like, I've never done that before. I'm not a heavy drinker. I never have been. And it's been a long minute since I've had so much as a beer. But there's just a lot, we're on a different gradient, he and I, as to normal behavior because it's I didn't grow up in the hood in the ghetto, and one of the players, his dad got killed, was gunned down in the parking lot of or driveway of the home. I've never been through something that crazy, but I grew up on blue collar hard knocks. I'm from the wrong side of the tracks, and it's like I don't know. I just there's a little too much acceptance of negative behavior, and it's like it'll be like, man, so maybe he should have known. It's like, no, he should have known. Don't do 18 shots and then shot glass and then go driving at all. And this wasn't 1956, and he did say this in the video. He could have called Uber. He's a multi-millionaire football player. He could have called Uber and had someone take him home. He could have called family members, I'm sure. And he was playing for Oakland, Henry Ruggs, and he was in Oakland, to my knowledge. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Might want to look into that, but it's like, you weren't in Texas and you live in Florida. You could have. There's a lot of options. You could have called somebody. Hey man, I'm plowed. Come get me. He could have walked down the street. This is a major city. Could have walked down the street and got a hotel room. Instead, he decides to get trashed and go driving at 156 miles an hour. There's just no excuse for that. And that's something I still appreciate FlemLo's content in the overall, but it's just like there's just he came off. This guy's a victim of circumstances. Just unfortunate. It's like no, he's not. He did a horrible thing here, and a woman burned to death as a consequence, and her dog. And there's been a few of those. So I'm pretty sure years back I became aware of his channel because of Cedric Benson, who died in a very bizarre motorcycle accident. Bizarre the way, the specifics of it. I'm a recovering Bears fan, and Cedric Benson used to play for the Bears. So I'm like, oh man, what happened to Ced? I'd heard about it, but I didn't know the details, you know what I mean? And so I watched one of his videos, and that was 3-something years ago, and I'm still watching him now. But just, he's, on the one hand, he's going deeper analytically into like a character study and what happened, and that's a good thing. But it's like, there's a video where he was like, if this dude didn't get injured, he wouldn't have, gotten into drugs. And I'm like, no, it's not an excuse. You still shouldn't, yeah, hardship came down the street and kicked your ass. You still shouldn't be doing drugs. And he did one on Sam Hurd, which I had no objection with that video, but Sam Hurd, went undrafted, I believe, played for Dallas for a few years. Things didn't work out in Dallas. He ended up in Chicago. I'm sorry, Sam. And worse than that, when he's in college, he was in D-Town. And I'm like, FlemLo, redo that video. Let me tell you about DeKalb, Illinois. That's where shit went south. When he got accepted into NIU. That's when the shit hits the fan. Come out and visit sometime. It's so bad. Anyway, had nothing to do with the Cowboys. And so FlemLo's like, the other receiver, when Sam Hurd got injured, the other guy took an opportunity and made a big career with tens of millions. Sam Hurd is making peanuts by comparison, and so maybe that's the motivation. He got into drugs, and he was trying to buy and distribute drugs in copious amounts. And I'm like, that just makes him a bad person. He's selling poison to people. People die from that. I don't know. Oh no, you made several millions of dollars instead of tens of millions of dollars. Oh, poor you. That's just not, that doesn't justify it. And he's not exactly saying that the hardship that these guys fall under justifies their crimes. But it's just like, in a way, it's like, I can appreciate empathy, but there's a fine line between empathy and excuses. It's like, you should know not to drink and drive. You should know not to sell drugs. You should know, register your firearms. And then in the Henry Ruggs, in another he's like, Henry Ruggs was a young man. He's young, we make mistakes. That mentality doesn't help. That mentality makes it worse. And so if you were like, I don't give a shit, you're 23 years old. You're a grown fucking man. You're playing in the National Football League. You're a multi-millionaire. No. No excuses for you. That doesn't excuse you selling drugs. So on the one way, FlemLo's like trying to explore the minutia and understand why, and that's fair, and I appreciate and respect that. But then he's like, and so this hardship, and now he's doing this horrible thing, and it's again the fine line between empathy and understanding and justifying what they did is it's blurring over there on that channel, dude. It's like Sam Hurd had no excuse. He was selling uncut cocaine, and he was picking up 10 kilos to distribute and 1,000 pounds worth of weed. Now, I have no idea if he would actually pulled that off on the street selling that much in the time frame, but that's not the point. He was acquiring narcotics to distribute on a very large scale. There is no excuse for that. Oh, well, and I'm not going to go specifics, but and when he was 10 years old, his uncle died. That's no excuse. Well, he's only 23. That's no excuse. Well, he didn't get this big contract deal he wanted. So he's going to sell poison to the people on the street? So, FlemLo, man, again, that line of empathy and finding understanding and justification for some horrible shit these guys have done, it's getting blurred over there, man. So I still like his content. I still appreciate most of what he's doing, but on the Henry Ruggs thing, I'm like, I gotta say something just to get off my own chest. Dude, you 18 shots, you did 156 and a 40, and a woman burned to death because of you. There's really nothing there. There's nothing else. So it's like his buddy died when he was a kid. He lost his best friend. Horrible tragedy. Nothing justifies that. Oh, Sam Hurd, he was a clean-cut kid. Somewhere he had this uncle who was a bad influence. Nothing justifies buying 10 grams of cocaine and selling it on the street. There's no justification for that. And so, again, I'm going to say it one more time. Empathy and understanding, justifying horrible shit. And the line's getting thin. So that's all I'm going to say. As a whole, I still enjoy the dude's channel, but it's getting like, he was one about hereditary alcoholism, and the guy became an alcoholic, shit hit the fan. It's like, just because you have that statistic doesn't mean that's what happened to this guy. So that's it. I'm going to leave it there. As a whole, still appreciate the dude, still appreciate the channel, but, there's trying to be helpful to people in tough situations, and then there's being too lenient, which is only going to encourage more negative behavior and crossing that line over there. I'll see you guys on the next one. Cheers.